Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Teresa, and so recently I've been spending a lot of time outside because here in California the fall weather is absolutely gorgeous and it has a lot of sun but a little bit chilly, and it's a perfect weather to take a walk, spend time with nature. And this is one of the parks that I've been to a lot lately because this is so beautiful. You have trees, water, mountains. And especially since this fall, you can see that the leaves are changing the colors, make everything look so colorful. And of course, as a painter, I took a lot of photos to capture these beautiful seasons as much as I can. So I thought that in the spirit of Thanksgiving, which is a holiday here in the US, and it would be a great idea if we could just sit down and make a postcard together. And for this postcard, I will paint one of the photos that I took from this beautiful park. So let's get started. First, let's talk briefly about the supplies that I will be using for today. For watercolor paint, I am using Windsor and Newton Cotman. And if you watch my other video, this is the only brand of watercolor pens that I am using. For brushes, I am using Princeton Velvet Touch round brush size 8. I may need size 4 for some detail. And I also have a pencil and a micro pen to do some slide sketch as well. For paper, I have Canson XL Cold Brush watercolor paper here with me. This is a student grade watercolor paper, but I think it works just fine. If you have cotton, 100% cotton paper, that's great, but feel free to use whatever available to you. And some of the other things you may need are a cup of water to rinse off the brushes in between, a gloves, or you can use your kitchen towel as well. And I also have a ceramic plate here to do some color mixing, and also a small piece of graph paper to test out the colors, and also a masking tape. Here is the photo that I decided to do for the today postcard painting. I took a lot of photos, but I tried to choose the one that has the most simple layouts but still have enough elements to make the painting interesting. And before we can start painting, here is what I am gonna do. I'm just gonna do some grabbing and remove some unnecessary detail to make the layout more pleasant looking and just to simplify the scenes a little bit. So the trees on the left, I don't think that is necessary to put it in the painting, so I'm gonna remove it to cut it out. So you can see now we only have a tree on the right, and it's right there at the third. You see the grid, so it's follow exactly the rule of third, which is exactly where I want it to be, so it looks good for me. So now the tree is gonna be our focal point, and we have the background. I will keep it as like the layer of mountains and a line of trees in the distance. And now in the editing iPhone app, I also want to edit some exposure, make it look a little bit lighter so that I can see some colors, and maybe use the black point to make the dark part more saturated, so we know exactly where the darkest value is. And finally, I go to the filter section and switch it over to black and white so that you can see it's like a tonal value 30, But over here we don't do it, but we actually have the phone do it for us. So when you look at it, you know where the lightest value and where's the darkest. So it's better for you to apply the watercolor paint later. Now I am going to grab my pencil and start do some sketching. And as you can see, I will start to divide it 3 proportional parts, horizontal and vertical, so that you can see that we have a grid just like what is shown in the camera. And from here I will know where I should put the trees and where the background should be. You actually can just eyeball, you don't have to draw the grid just like me, but I think that this way works fine for me, so I want to share with you guys. And now I am just gonna look at the shape of the tree and start drawing accordingly. Just follow the shape, you don't have to put too much detail. This is just a sketch. Also do some pencil sketch for the background as well. Okay, so now the pencil sketch is done. I am gonna grab my micron pen and draw on top of the pencil line. You can use any black pen you have as long as it's waterproof, because later on we gotta apply the watercolor paint on top of it. When I finish with the pen line, I will erase the pencil line because I don't want the pencil line show through once I apply the watercolor paint. Because as you may know, if you apply the watercolor on top of the pencil line, you cannot erase it anymore. It's gonna stay there forever. So that's the reason why I have to go in with the ink, because I kind of wanted to have the look of the ink and paint look. I kind of like that look, but if you don't want the ink here, that's fine too. You can just have a very light sketch of the pencil and maybe erase some of the line to make it lighter, so that later on when you apply the watercolor, you don't have the pencil line show through. And after erasing the pencil line, I will again go in with my micron pen, and I will just look at the black and white photo here, see where is the darkest value area is, and then we'll start marking accordingly on my sketch. And as you can see here, we have some of the darkest spots in the tree lines in the distance, and also some of the dark spot here on the focal point trees, like the shadow near the top, and also the front area as well. There's a lot of shadow there, so definitely those are the spots that have the darkest value. I want to share this step with you guys because I think this is very important. In any painting, value is very important. Once you get the value right, everything's gonna fall in place. Especially if you are a beginner, you may not get used to look at and figure out the value yet, so this is probably the easiest way to help you out. Okay, so prepping is done. We now have a sketch, and next step we're going to mix some colors for the sky. For the sky, the colors I'm going to use is cobalt blue and emerald. I think these two colors, when you mix together, they're gonna have a very nice, pretty, and lovely sky colors. You can see that I mix a little bit of the green emerald to the cobalt blue. Maybe it's not like the colors of the beach, but if it's look like this, you can always go back and add some more cobalt blue so that the colors have more blue in it. And first, I am going to wet the sky area first with the clean water, and after that start applying the colors that we already mixed. So as you can see in the photo, for the sky colors, the part at the top is always darker than the part at the bottom where it close to the horizon line. So for the top part, I will apply more like cobalt blue, and for the bottom part, it's gonna be more like the mixture of cobalt blue and emerald green. Watercolor is always dry lighter than it appears when you first apply it. Make sure that you apply enough color so it can show on the paper when it dries. And now I am grabbing a small piece of kitchen towel and start dabbing onto the sky to remove some colors. This is called lifting technique. So you use this technique to in case you want to paint some clouds. So as you can see, I'm just slightly dab in a random area where I want to have some kind of clouds. And then it's gonna lift the colors and leave the white area. And to make the white more stand out, make the cloud more stand out, you can always go back and add more blue color around the white area to make it darker so that the white gonna stand out. And now I'm just gonna use the same mixture, but maybe more on the emerald green side. Make it more green, is just make it a little bit different compared to the sky colors, and start painting the water. Over here, I think the water has the lightest value, so you don't use a lot of paint for the water as well. Just a tint of color, that's it. Once I'm done with the water, I will go back to my palette, grab some yellow. You can either use lemon yellow or cadmium yellows, both are fine, and start painting the foreground. The foreground is gonna have a lot of shadows later on when we apply the dark colors. So that's why I have the base color as yellow. So when we apply the shadows, the yellow is gonna peek through to represent some light. And when I look at the foreground, I also see some variations such as yellow ochre or brownish tone. So that's why I picked some ochre, yellow ochre, and maybe some sap green and some brown to give us some variation. And now my sky is completely dry. I will make some color for the layer of mountain in distance. So I will grab some indigo. This is a very dark blue, and dilute it with a lot of water to make it lighter for the mountain in the distance. This is considered aerial perspective. So if the things that appear in the distance will seems to be fainter and has more blue in it, that's why I'm using the blue indigo. And also this is a layer they have like a couple of layers of mountains. So to distinguish between the layers, I'm just gonna add some more this is called Viridian green that I have in my palette. It is a very cool and bright green, but when I mix with indigo, it will look darker, and it's perfect for these mountains in distance. To paint the mountain in distance, as you can see, I'm just using the tip of my brush and apply the colors. Since they are in the distance, so we're not gonna put too much detail, maybe just a tint of colors, that's it. And I also extend it on the other side, which maybe overlaps with the focal point trees, but we just apply just a tint of color, so it's not going to affect too much later on when we painting the tree. To make the mountain a little bit more noticeable, I'm just gonna grab more indigo blue and just drop here and there. So some spots gonna have a darker value, so when we look at it we know, oh, that's a layered mountain. But otherwise you don't put too much, and then don't make it appear to be too dark. And now I am mixing some sap green with ultramarine to darken the greens and make it cooler for the tree lines in front of the mountain. And to add some more variation and some colors, I also want to add some yellow ochre as well. Since it's fall, so probably some trees, some leaves are starting to change the color as well. So that's why we can see like a hint of yellow in the distance. And as you can see, I also use the tip of my brush to drop the colors. That's it. We don't actually go in and paint it like a tree, because first, they are in the distance. We don't put too much detail. And second, this one, the people when they look at your painting, they will know it's a tree once you put the color. And yeah, and that's it. That's pretty much simple. Remember the simple rule: if one is in the distance and not in the focal points, you don't be caught up too much with the detail. And now I also mix some indigo, the dark blue, with the sap green to add some shadow for these trees. Because if you remember when we were first sketching, there certainly some darkest value appeared to be in these trees lines as well. Alright, now we've done the background. Once waiting for all the layers are completely dry, I want to show you a little techniques that we'll be using for the trees in the focal point. And I think you can use this technique in other landscape as well. The technique is called mixing on the paper. So here's small piece grab of paper. First, I will wash the area first, and after that, I have the yellow color here. I will apply it onto the wet area. And now I will drop in the sap green into the area that I already applied the yellow colors. So as you can see, when the paper is still wet, you see that when you apply another layer of paint, they will mix together automatically. You just need to drop in the colors and you don't have to blend it together. Just let the paint blend together by themselves. And by mixing the color directly on the paper this way, you will see that it will give you a more vibrant looking. You will see different variation. You can see the green, the yellow peeking through. Normally what we usually do is to mix the color on the palette and after that apply it onto the paper, just like what I'm doing right now. So you see when I mix it first and then apply on the paper later, it will appear to be more like a flat colors. You can only see one color, the green. You don't actually see many variations. So I think maybe in some situation it can make your painting less vibrant and more dull. So yeah, I will use the first way to apply the trees here, but I want to show you the tips, so it's up to you, whatever you prefer. Alright, so now I think all the layers are dry, so I will grab some color first, some cadmium yellow, some sap green, and some brown as well. I want to make the trees appear to be more oranges since it's fall, even though in the photo it looks just a little bit yellow and green. But since we have a blue sky here, so a little bit of oranges brown will make it look much more stand out and contrast with the sky and make it look more dramatic and more interesting, I think. And now I am just gonna mix all the colors onto the paper just like what we discussed earlier. And remember, always wet the area first, because if it's too dry, the color is not gonna blend together automatically. Make sure that you wet the paper before you apply the paint. I also use some yellow ochre mixing with a little bit of cadmium red to paint the grasses on both sides of the tree as well. And for the shadow, you can use either the brown mixing with a little bit of ultramarine to darken and make it a shadow for the grasses. And for the tree trunk, I also used the mixture of brown and mixing with ultramarine to darken the brow and make it a shadow. And at this stage, for the branches of the tree, I don't actually follow exactly like the photo anymore. I'm just kind of put some more branches on the trees to represent there's the branches there. That's all. You don't actually have to put as much as the branches that you can see in the photo. It's not really necessary. Alright, at this stage everything is dry and we almost done. The final step is to look back and see if there's any area that needs a little more colors to make it appear to be darker, to have some kind of contrast. So I see here the tree lights is a little bit too light for my liking, so I'm gonna add more color to make it look darker in some spot. And the same with the tree here, I am going to apply some more dark green on the bottom to have some kind of shadows as what we're seeing in the photo. And finally, we're gonna go to the foreground, which is the darkest area. There's a lot of shadow here. I've been debating if I should put the shadow or not because I am just very bad at doing shadows. Sometimes it's just too dark and sometimes it's just too light. I never guess it's right, the value of the shadows. But I think here we have the shadow is obviously the casting shadow of the trees, and it's so dark. it absolutely contrasts with the lightness of the water. So I think it's gonna be make the painting look more dramatic, and I think it's a good thing to add. So I will try to do this shadow, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be a success or not, but I will try. Okay, now I'm just gonna add some more variation for the foreground, like add some more sap green, yellow ochre, and brown, as I see different tones in the photo reference. For the shadow, I will use the purple, mixing with ultramarine and a little bit of paint gray to make it darker. But I think later on when I look at this, I think that maybe it's just too dark. Maybe I should have just added with ultramarine or indigo would be a bad choice instead of paint gray, because paint gray just make the color look a little bit dull, not vibrant, which I don't think I really like the shadow here. But anyway, let's think positive. I think that it is a journey, and it's good to know that I still have a lot of things to learn and improve. And for you guys, if you don't like to add the shadow, feel free to omit this part. As an artist, you have freedom to add whatever you want in your painting. And finally, I'm gonna add some shadow for the water to make it less flat, but it still remains as the lightest value area, so I'm not gonna add too much. Okay everyone, here is the complete look of the painting. I really hope that you had a good time today painting along with me, and that the tutorial is helpful for you. And if you have any question, feel free to leave in the comments below. I will try to answer as fast as I can. And if you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. That would help me a lot. And subscribe to my channel, because I will post the new video every Saturday. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a nice weekend, and for all American friends, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see again next week. Bye.